In 2019, the World Health Organization officially recognized burnout as a medical diagnosis. Not stress, not being tired, burnout. A specific kind of depletion that comes from chronic workplace stress that hasn't been successfully managed. And if you're honest, you probably didn't need the WHO to tell you this was real. You've felt it. That moment when you wake up already exhausted before your feet touch the floor. When you reach for your phone and the first thing you feel isn't curiosity but dread at the notifications waiting. When you're in the middle of your workday and realize you've been holding your breath without knowing it. Or maybe it's subtler than that. That afternoon when you sat in your car after work, engine running, and couldn't quite make yourself open the door and walk inside. Not because anything was wrong, just because you had nothing left. Or that Sunday evening when you're already feeling Monday's weight settling on your chest. Or those moments when someone asks, "How are you?" and you say, "Busy," because it's the only word that fits. And you realize you can't remember the last time your answer was different. But here's what's strange. Maybe you've also noticed something else. Those rare mornings when you wake up and there's this unexpected lightness. Like somehow, overnight, the weight lifted and you can breathe again. You're not sure why. Nothing changed in your circumstances. Or that afternoon when you're walking somewhere and you suddenly notice the light on the trees, and for 30 seconds you're not thinking about your to-do list, and it feels like remembering something you'd forgotten. Or that moment you're with someone you love and you realize you're actually present. Not performing, not multitasking, just there. And it feels almost revolutionary. If you've felt both the depletion and those unexpected moments of rest, you're paying attention to something real. Because 3,000 years ago, God prescribed a specific remedy for exactly this kind of exhaustion. And it wasn't about religion, it wasn't about rules or rituals or earning His approval. It was about rhythm, about how the human body and spirit were actually designed to function. About a pattern woven into creation itself that we've forgotten. The Hebrew word is Shabbat, and what we've lost by misunderstanding it might be the key to surviving modern life. David sits across from me in a coffee shop, hands wrapped around a cup he hasn't touched in 10 minutes. He's 34, founder of a tech startup that just closed Series B funding. Should be celebrating. Instead, he looks like he's aging and fast forward. "I can't remember the last time I wasn't tired," he says. Not dramatically, just stating fact. Even when I sleep, I wake up tired. And the weird thing is, I'm winning. The company's growing. We're hitting targets. Everyone thinks I'm crushing it. He pauses, looks down at his coffee. But I keep having this thought. What if I get everything I'm working for, and I'm too exhausted to enjoy it? This is where most religious answers fail. They'd tell David to keep the Sabbath without explaining why. They'd make it about obeying a rule. Or worse, they'd make it another item on his to-do list. Another way to perform. But here's what shifts when you understand what Shabbat actually means. The Hebrew word doesn't primarily mean rest in the sense we think of it. The root word, shbt, means to cease, to stop, to interrupt. Not rest as in catch your breath so you can go harder tomorrow. Cease, as in stepping off the treadmill entirely, even if the treadmill is still running. Shabbat isn't recovery time so you can be more productive. It's an entirely different way of being human. And here's what makes this so challenging for us. Shabbat means stepping away from productivity while you're still capable of producing. David's eyes widen when I say this. That's the problem, he says. I tell myself I'll rest when I finish the project. when we close this funding round, when we hire that key person. But there's always another thing. And the truth is, I'm terrified of what happens if I stop. There it is, the modern heresy we've all absorbed. We are what we produce. And if we stop producing, even for a moment, we stop mattering. But Shabbat says something completely different. You are not your output. You are not the sum of your accomplishments. Your worth isn't measured by what you did today. You are created. You are known. You are enough. Even, especially, when you produce nothing at all. This is permission you didn't know you needed. Watch how this pattern appears in Scripture. It starts at the very beginning. Genesis 1. God creates for 6 days, light and darkness, sky and sea, land and vegetation, sun and moon, fish and birds, animals and humans. And then, on the 7th day, God stops. Not because the work was finished. There's always more that could be done. Not because God was tired. He's God. God stops to establish a rhythm. Work has a limit. Creation happens in cycles, not in constant output. And here's what matters. God calls the 7th day holy, not the first 6 days when he was creating. The 7th day, the day of ceasing. Holiness, apparently, doesn't require productivity. Then watch what happens in Exodus. The Israelites have been slaves in Egypt for 400 years. Their worth has been measured entirely by their output. How many bricks they could make, how much they could produce. Their Egyptian taskmasters didn't see them as human beings. They saw them as production units. And when God liberates them, one of the first things he does, before he gives them any other laws, is teach them Shabbat. Every 7 days you stop working. Not because you've earned rest. Not because the work is done. Just because it's the 7th day. This is what freedom looks like. You are not defined by your productivity. And here's the revolutionary part. The command includes everyone. Your children, your servants, even your animals, even the foreigner living among you. Shabbat democratizes rest. It declares that every human being, regardless of status, regardless of accomplishment, deserves to cease. Not optional, not for the privileged few, for everyone. Because rest isn't a luxury. It's woven into the fabric of how God designed humans to live. But then we get to Jesus. And this is where everything clicks into place. The religious leaders of Jesus' day had turned Shabbat into exactly what it was never supposed to be, another performance metric. They created 39 categories of work you couldn't do. They measured, they judged, they used Shabbat as a weapon to determine who was righteous and who wasn't. And Jesus systematically dismantles this. He heals on the Sabbath, multiple times, deliberately. And when the religious leaders object, Jesus says something stunning. The Sabbath was made for man, not man for the Sabbath. Wait, Sabbath was made for us? Like a gift? Like something designed for our flourishing? Not a test we pass or fail, not a rule to measure our devotion. A gift designed specifically for human flourishing. And then Jesus goes further. He says, "The Son of Man is Lord of the Sabbath." Meaning what exactly? Meaning Jesus embodies what Shabbat was always pointing toward. He is our rest, our ceasing, our stepping off the treadmill of performance. When you're with Jesus, you're in Shabbat. Not because you're doing nothing, but because you're no longer earning, proving, performing to establish your worth. You're simply receiving what's already been given. This is the revelation that changes everything. Shabbat isn't about stopping work. It's about stopping striving. It's about ceasing the endless attempt to establish your significance through what you do. And when you understand this, rest stops being weakness and becomes resistance. It's you declaring, "My worth doesn't come from my productivity. My identity doesn't come from my output. I'm held by something that existed before I achieved anything and will remain after I've stopped achieving altogether." This is permission to be human again. 6 months after that conversation, I see David again. Same coffee shop. But he looks different. Not rested exactly. He still has a tech startup to run. But there's something in his face that wasn't there before. "I started taking one day," he says. "Just one day a week where I don't check email, don't work, don't try to accomplish anything." "How's it going?" I ask. He laughs. "The first 3 weeks were torture, physically painful. I'd pace, my mind would race. I kept thinking about all the work piling up. But then," he pauses. "Then something weird happened. I was walking with my daughter, really walking, no phone, no destination, and she said something funny, and I laughed, and I realized I couldn't remember the last time I'd actually laughed. Not politely, not a meeting laugh, actually laughed." His eyes get wet. "I'd been so focused on building a life for my family that I'd stopped being present for my actual family. And it took stopping to notice what I was missing. Here's what's happening in our culture that nobody's naming directly. We live in a productivity cult with its own liturgy. Optimize, maximize, never waste a moment, monetize your hobbies, build your brand. Its own priests, productivity gurus, life hackers, rise and grind influencers. Its own promise, hustle enough and you'll finally arrive. You'll be free. But here's what nobody admits. The people who've arrived are just as exhausted as everyone else. Maybe more so, because the treadmill never stops. There's always another level, another goal, another way you're not maximizing your potential. And all of it is built on a lie. You are what you produce. The cost of this lie? We're the most productive generation in human history, and the most depressed, anxious, and exhausted. We're more connected than ever, and lonelier. We have more options than ever, and less peace. We've optimized ourselves into depletion. And Shabbat stands as a weekly rebellion against the entire system. It says, you can stop, the world will continue. Your worth doesn't depend on your output. Rest isn't earned, it's received. One day a week, you practice being human instead of a human doing. I'll tell you when I learned this for myself. I'd been writing a book for 2 years. Nights, weekends, every spare moment, pushing, grinding. And I finished it, hit send on the manuscript, and instead of satisfaction, I felt nothing, just immediate anxiety about the next project, like an addict needing the next fix. That's when I realized I'd turned writing, something I loved, into another way to earn my worth. Another metric to measure my significance, and it was killing the very thing I loved about it. I had to learn how to cease, not just rest, cease. Stop trying to earn, stop trying to matter through accomplishment. Just be held by a God who delighted in me before I wrote a single word. That practice, ceasing one day a week, has saved more than my productivity. It saved my humanity. This is the permission you're allowed to take. So what does Shabbat reveal about God's character? This: God is rhythmic, not relentless. God works in pulses, not grinding continuity. Creation happens in cycles, day and night, work and rest, planting and harvest, death and resurrection. The modern world demands constant, uninterrupted productivity, but God designed a different rhythm: exertion and restoration, striving and ceasing, pouring out and being filled. And when God rests on the seventh day, He's not modeling weakness, He's modeling trust. He's saying, the universe doesn't depend on constant effort. Reality is held together by something more fundamental than work. You can stop because God doesn't stop. You can rest because God keeps watch. You can cease producing because your worth was established before you began. This completely reframes the exhaustion epidemic we're facing. The problem isn't that we're working too hard, though many of us are. The problem is that we're working without rhythm, without cycles, without the built-in interruption that reminds us we're not machines. We've tried to eliminate the need for rest through optimization, through life hacks, through coffee and willpower and motivational quotes. But God designed humans to need Shabbat. Not as punishment, as protection. It's the circuit breaker that keeps us from burning out the whole system. When David told me about walking with his daughter, about laughing for the first time in months, here's what he said next. I realized that my best isn't measured by how much I accomplish. My best is being present for what actually matters, and I can't be present if I'm constantly grinding. You are free to stop, not because the work is finished. It never is. Not because you've earned rest. You can't earn what's already yours. You are free to stop because God designed you to need stopping. Because rest isn't weakness. It's alignment with how reality actually works. The rhythm that created the universe is the same rhythm you need to survive being human. Work and rest, effort and ease, striving and ceasing. This is how you were made to live. And here's what this means practically. You don't have to earn your worth through what you accomplish today. You can stop working while the work is still unfinished, because your identity isn't tied to completing it. You can step away from your phone, your email, your constant availability, because your significance doesn't depend on always being on. One day a week, you can cease producing and simply be created. Simply be held. Simply be enough. Not because you achieved something today, but because you exist, and existence, just existing, is already holy in God's eyes. This is the freedom Shabbat offers. Not more time to be productive, permission to stop producing altogether and discover that you're still held, still known, still loved. The treadmill will keep running, but you can step off. God has been waiting for you there all along. Tomorrow morning, when your alarm goes off and you reach for your phone before your eyes are fully open, that's a choice point. What if, just once, you didn't? What if you let yourself be awake for 60 seconds before the world makes demands? This week, when you're at your desk and your mind starts cataloging everything that's undone, every way you're behind, notice that voice. That's not wisdom. That's the productivity cult telling you your worth is in your output. You can name it. That's not true. I'm held by something deeper. What if you chose one day? Doesn't have to be Saturday or Sunday, just one day, and practiced ceasing. Not catching up on chores, not productive rest. Actually stopping. Go for a walk without a destination. Sit with someone you love without checking your phone. Let yourself be bored for 20 minutes and see what emerges. This isn't adding another to-do. This is practicing a different way of being human. The rhythm God designed isn't natural anymore. You have to choose it, protect it, practice it, But it's worth it, because you're discovering what you were before you achieved anything. And what you'll be after everything you've built has passed away. You're not your output. You are created, known, delighted in, before you accomplish a single thing. The world will tell you this isn't true. Every day it will tell you this isn't true, but one day a week, you can practice the truth. You can cease and discover you're still held, still known, still enough. That's not weakness. That's coming home to the rhythm you were made for all along.